All right, guys, welcome to your first history lesson while you're on break. I got some help. We got Reed. How old are you, Reed? Yep. How old are you?
6.
What's your name?
Ryan.
All right, and where'd you guys even come from? All right, I'm weird, as you guys know. So I just thought we'd start off the day. What is your favorite things?
Legos.
All right, show him your Legos that you built this all by himself. Boom, he did that by himself. Look at it, it's a 360 tour. Oh, there's Reed's face. All right, come back and get sit. All right. This is me working from home, y'all. And what do you like?
I like to play police cars.
Those police cars.
Oh.
So, these guys are gonna tell you guys to say, pay attention.
Pay attention.
Work hard.
Work hard.
No, this is serious. You guys, this is serious. This is my job. Go. This is it. All right.
Hey guys, this is Mr. Ullman. So this is what we're going to be trying to do is kind of communicate through YouTube videos and through Twitter and through the website to get you guys kind of ready, because I don't know if you saw the update. The College Board is planning at this time to work with doing exams at home. So apparently the AP exams so far are still on, so I want to make sure you guys are ready. So what I have here today is just to show you guys the website. You can see I'm an announcement here that if you want to follow me on Twitter, there I am at Adam Oltmans. And so you can follow that just for updates. I post some news stories, some relevant information that might interest you. Also, if you go to Files and Resources 2, hopefully you've already visited this, but this is your typical stuff, so you guys recognize that. That's just there for you to really work on to make sure that you're staying up with the information. And then what I've done is I've posted these Adobe Sparks. It really kind of pares it down and simplifies it. And so what you see here is this one is just kind of going through diplomacy in the interwar years. So just kind of basic knowledge, where we're at, isolation, we're in the midst of the Great Depression still. And then what we're going to focus on today is this spark that is going to go into from isolation into intervention and how that happens. It's having a hard time loading now, but there's a link there you can follow to get that information. So like I said, that's what this video is mostly going to be about. Before we get into that, I just want to highlight some other things. And just to be clear for now, these assignments up here are really just enrichment activities. And I know that you guys are at home and you're not at school and you're going to feel like, well, why would I ever do that? But if you want to take the AP exam seriously, if you want to get ready, these are the things that we're picking out to really help you with those. Of course, communicate with me by email with your student account if you have questions or need help with anything. But this is the For Freedom speech. That's on the AP exam. We've seen questions on that. This is talking about minorities in World War II. It does say it's a quiz grade, but of course it's not. We're not assessing anything. But this will help you dive into minorities and their role in World War II. That's on the AP exam. And then this is for those of you who want to get a good sense of the turning points in World War II. This is an awesome video on YouTube that I'll even point to later on in this video. Okay, so we're going to go through the PowerPoint a little bit today. Not all of it. Again, catch up if you're not really here yet. But we're going to talk about war erupting in Europe very briefly, just to give us some good context. And so what we have here is, of course, with war is broken out when Hitler breaks the Munich Pact. We know that they've been appeasing Adolf Hitler now for several years, all the way going back to 36, meaning they're giving in to his demands to avoid war. But what Hitler's going to do here is he's taken all this territory, as you can see, and the only thing that makes sense for him is to take Poland, because this is Lebensraum. This is living space for Germans. There's Germans there. Why can't we have that? It was taken from us after World War I. But he knows that if he does this, there's another country out there that thinks that they deserve Poland, and there's a whole history with that. Guess it. Guess it. Good. Russia. And they have learned, Hitler has learned, that he does not want a two-front war. He knows by breaking the Munich Pact, he's probably going to have to fight France and Great Britain. But if he takes Poland, he might also have to fight Russia, and that's a two-front war. So he signs this Nazi-Soviet non-aggression pact, which is an agreement with Stalin that you don't attack us, we'll split Poland, and everything will be all good. But of course, as you can see from this cartoon, you study this, it's Hitler marrying Stalin, and it says, I wonder how long the honeymoon will last. And of course, that's hinting at the fact that it's not going to last. So we'll stay tuned for that, but nonetheless, he feels assured now that he's not going to have to fight that two-front war. So on September 1st, 1939, this is the official start of World War II, Hitler invades Poland using this blitzkrieg-style warfare. You guys can research that. This is a good graphic on the PowerPoint to give you a sense, though. This is really technology, so if you're going on the AP exam, think about how technology affects things. Well, technology is affecting warfare, of course, right here. So war erupts. The French are going to succumb pretty quickly here. This is just information on the Maginot Line. More or less what happens is France feels secure behind this fortress that they've built. And they also feel pretty secure because they have guarded against invasion through Belgium, because that happened in World War I. But here's this really lightly defended area in the Ardennes forest. They didn't believe that all the heavy artillery could make it through this forest, but of course they do. And this is where you get the events leading to Dunkirk. And so really quickly, what I would tell you to do is look at why this matters. The surprise has... So because you have time at home, I figured you might as well get some video in here. This is going to be a trailer on YouTube for the movie Dunkirk, and this really does tell a pretty good story about what was at stake and what happened. So I might narrate a little bit beyond this, but I'll have you watch this.
Watch it on your own time.
History that you should know is that this really gets the attention of the American people. That this war that we felt like really wasn't our fight, all of a sudden we can see how this might end up in our backyard. And these London blitzes, the Battle of Britain is when the Germans started bombing these civilian centers. You can see in these pictures. Here we have people living in the subway tunnels. This is public spaces that have been bombed out. And so when this happens, FDR is really pushing the American people, saying, hey, if we don't act now, then we might be next. And so the next step, and this is the big one, this is the highlightable, this is huge, is we had been isolated, and now he announces this Neutrality Act of 1939. And as you can see, it's also known as the cash and carry policy. You have to be able to differentiate this one from the other ones before it and after. But this one is basically when the United States says that any nation, allied or Axis, so remaining neutral, can buy U.S. goods if they pay cash. Because we are in the Great Depression, we really want cash. And you have to carry it on your own ship, because we don't want to take it over there and get sunk like the Lusitania and then be dragged into this conflict. So it's a win-win for us. We can make money, stay out of the war. So the Neutrality Act of 1939, this is a big step, though, because at the end of the day, a lot of isolationists said, wait a second, the only people who could possibly take us up on this offer are the British. They control the seas. The Germans have no way of accessing this war material. So if we do this policy, it is really taking the side of the British without saying so. And they're exactly right. And FDR knew this. This was our way of subtly kind of coming in to help the Allied powers without actually taking an exact side. So it's neutral, Neutrality Act. Cash and carry policy, though, means that, as you can see, let's see if I can zoom in on that picture for you guys. Trying to use technology, it's not always very easy for me. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to, but I think you guys can see it. This right here, the old man of the sea. Aid that will win, that's the cash and carry policy. And as you can see, it is tied to this man's beard, and what do you think is going to happen? Is, of course, he's going to get dragged into the conflict. So that's our next spot. So we've gone from isolation, really meaning we don't want to have anything to do with it, to now we are somewhat involved. Even though we're saying we're neutral, we know that this really doesn't leave us neutral. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to take a break from the PowerPoint really quickly. And that PowerPoint, it did talk about how FDR was re-elected in 1940. He breaks precedent, getting re-elected a third time. But in that, after that election, he gives this speech called the Four Freedom Speech, and I want to highlight that on the website, which is what I'm doing right now. And if you click on this, it gives you a link to a website that identifies that Four Freedom Speech, and just do some questions on it. We see this on the AP exam, a lot of multiple choice questions about the Four Freedoms. It's not a lot of work, but I think it will clear up a lot for you. And why it's so important is because the purpose of this document is to try and convince Americans to leave their isolation. And so we'll talk about that in the next segment of this video. So after that speech, and with Congress behind him, we have a new development. So again, we've been isolated to now neutrality, the Neutrality Act, which we said really wasn't neutral, to this one is the Lend-Lease Act. And look what it says. It says that we are no longer neutral, that we are going to send Great Britain anything that they need to win this war. We are not going to make them pay cash. We're lending it or leasing it. They can have whatever they want, and we'll even take it over there for them. And so this is making us this term that you need to know, the arsenal of democracy. And so now the United States is in the war. We're not fighting, but industrially we are there. So that's a big development there. Make sure you know those terms. And so where we are at here is, of course, we've been focusing a lot on Germany and our help to Great Britain. But there is, of course, this next story, and we're going to get into that. Okay, before we get into that, I want to show you guys, this is up there on the website. This is from YouTube as well. A very quick snippet on this Lend-Lease Act and its significance, so I'll let you watch and enjoy.
To boost the Soviet... I always told you to
Watch it on your own time.
watch on your own time.
All right, this is going to be the last part of the video today, but because again, we're kind of tracing how do we get into this thing. So now we know that industrially, economically, we're contributing. But of course, what brings us into the fighting would be the dispute with Japan. So very quickly, just a few things that I want to highlight here is number one, what caused the Japanese to attack us? And the answer to that is we issue an embargo. Because now we've taken a side in the Lend-Lease Act, we can no longer do business with these belligerent Axis powers, and Japan is one of those. And so as it says up here, we issue this embargo. And the Japanese plan rests on a huge war machine. And if we embargo air and naval supplies like oil and tin and rubber, which we have a lot of in the Pacific, those resources, well, then they can't create that war machine. So this embargo really hurts the Japanese plan. And as it says, Tojo, the prime minister, tried diplomacy, tried to work out a deal, but he knew very quickly we weren't going to give him what he needed. And so while he's doing that, he is plotting a secret attack. And this is the day that lives in infamy. This is December 7th, 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor. Again, you guys could probably do a lot of research on your own on that. But the highlights here is that as devastating as it was, they did not sink vital aircraft carriers. And our oil supplies were also somewhat still usable and operational. So what I wanted to do really quickly is I wanted to look at this speech by FDR. Well, I'll have you read it, but you can see that this is the moment where Congress almost unanimously says, we were wronged and we are going to respond. And so this is his famous speech that he annotated, and you can see the language he uses, but this is officially what brings us into the war. So that's it for today, but what we're going to do next time is talk about the home front, because that's probably what you're most likely to get questions about on the AP exam. I hope you guys are chilling. Hope you guys are having a good time, staying free from that corona. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Smash that like button. Don't get caught in the YouTube wormhole, and I'll see you guys later.